as a command line tool. Now, the command line tool is also written in Python, but it's wrapped up as a separate binary. So if you're working on a system where you don't have a Python implementation installed and or don't want one, then you can just download the binary for Windows, Linux, and OS X, and then you can just work with that encapsulated piece of software. So if I find the right part, EUMETSAT is available via our Conda channel, and I'll put up some of these links in a minute. And if you click to the development part under EUMETSAT here, then this will tell you all the instructions on how you need to install the binaries, where you can get them, and how you use them, for example. So the binaries are all available here in the releases section. As I said, I'll put this link up towards the end, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, so from this point on, I'm going to close my browser window, and I'm going to hope that you can see my command line. Haley, can you give me a quick nod? Can you see my terminal window? Okay, so I'm going to go through the command line option first. Now, all I've got here in my terminal window is a completely blank Anaconda environment that I built, and all I've done is install EUMETSAT. So to install EUMETSAT using Python, I just run this command. So this will just install EUMETSAT from I already installed it, so I don't need to run this again at the moment. So conda install -c from the EUMETSAT channel, EUMETSAT. Now I have EUMETSAT. So if I type EUMETSAT here, hey. So that's now all set up, ready for me to go. And if you, like as I said, if you don't use Conda or a Python package manager, you can reach the same point by installing the binaries and then pathing to them as you require. So now that I've installed EUMETSAT, I would need to authenticate it. Now, I already have my credentials set, so this isn't a problem. But if you want to authenticate, you need to call EUMETSAT -credentials, your consumer key and consumer secret from the API page, and you only need to do this once. This will make an authentication file called .eumdat in your home directory, and once it's there until you decide to delete it. So once you've authenticated for the first time, that's it, you're authenticated. Next, I want to see what EUMETSAT has to offer, and there are 4 methods which are probably of use. They are describe, search, download, excuse me, and subscribe. So let's just try to start off with EUMETSAT describe, and this will list every single collection that is available inside the data store. So there will be a few. You might see a few things cropping up that say val on mine. That's because I have access to a few other collections kind of that are in progress or in process. But for the most part, all of these val ones will not appear for you. But as you see here, you can see absolutely everything, which may not necessarily be what you want. So if we want to say prune that a little bit, we can do EUMETSAT describe -c, and then we're going to give it one of these collection codes that I pointed to earlier. And in my case, I'm going to give it this one, which is my Ultra Level 1B full resolution product. And this will give us some information about what the collection is we're looking for, what data is available, and a little bit more about the kind of the nature of what we're looking at. So now that I've isolated kind of the collection and confirmed the collection that I'm interested in, I might want to then search. Now I've got quite a complicated search query here, but I can talk through some of the points because I'm a little bit time limited. So we can do EUMETSAT search, and there's a whole host of arguments that we can throw at this. The most important ones being the collection, so -c in the same collection as before. By default, EUMETSAT will limit the number of products it returns to 100. So if you are looking or likely to be looking for more than 100 products, then you need to set the limit a bit higher. You can then pass it your region of interest as a well-known text polygon, which is what I've placed in there, and then your start and your end dates. And if I run this, it should return, hopefully not 100,000. No, fortunately enough, my search is narrow enough that it's only returned what looks like 9 granules of interest for me that correspond to this search. Okay, so let's say I want all 9 of these. The easiest and most convenient way to then retrieve them is all I do is I just send it to a products.txt file at the end. So now this is in products, and to download them all from EUMETSAT, I just refer to that same products.txt file And this will now go and retrieve all of these 9 Sentinel-3A Alt-G level 1 granules. And so that is it. That is most of the common tasks you would want to do wrapped into single lines on EUMETSAT. Now, some things to note, in all of these cases, you can actually ask EUMETSAT for help or just provide no information to it, and it will give you a list of all of the options that you have to search. Now, currently, the data store as of last week is on version 2 and EUMETSAT is on version 1.1. We are hoping to catch up very shortly, but you might find that there are a couple of search options that are not yet reflected in EUMETSAT, even though the APIs themselves offer them. Give us a few weeks and we should have EUMETSAT caught up with what the data store currently offers. So you should be able to use all of the search parameters that you would find if you were navigating through the GUI you would expect to see. And actually, you can see down here, I said I would put the links to some of the resources so you can see them. I can put them all in chat, or Haley and I can make sure that we supply them to you later for the knowledge bases, the GitLab for EUMETSAT, and where you would get to the EUMETSAT Anaconda channel. So back to my browser. Alongside the command line implementation, we also have a Python library, which is essentially the core of EUMETSAT. It's what EUMETSAT is built on before it's wrapped up. We have a series of Jupyter notebooks that walk you through the various processes you can perform with the library in order to interface with Sentinel-3 collections, and indeed any collection you want in the EUMETSAT data store using EUMETSAT in a Pythonic context. So here's an example of one of these notebooks. And I won't run through it all because I think that would take a bit of time. But it goes through step by step all the things you need to do in order to be able to use this from in a Python-like context. It tells you a bit about the data store, gives you a bit more of a lengthy walk through how to interface with the GUI with my face, how to authenticate EUMETSAT to be able to interface with the APIs, how to install it. And then once we've got this set up, we can talk through or walk through some of the different options that you can do just by calling the Python-based libraries. For example, filtering by collection, as we did before from the command line, we can just get a selected collection just by providing the collection ID to this getCollection method. We can again choose to filter by time. If we want just the latest item in a collection, we actually can have a method specifically for this. So for those that are again looking for the most up-to-date granule to make sure or to see if they already have it, then you can just use this this latest approach by asking for the first item in the returned list. And again, we can filter quite simply by start and end time, as well as by an ROI from Polygon. So why don't we just try this? So it should be fine for me to do this. So it should generate my token, my time limited one. This will tell me in the case of the Python implementation when it's going to expire, but it will also regenerate when it does expire. And now we can create our data store objects using this imported EUMETSAT library. And as before from the command line, this will now tell us, because I pruned the list here, only the collections that are available for Sentinel-3. Now I can choose my collection of interest. Excuse me. And in this case, I've got the level 2 ocean color resolution. So the level 1 was the 0409 and the level 2 is 0407. And once I have this, then I can again choose to filter by the latest product that's available. I can choose to filter by available time, as well as available time and space of my region of interest. Now, from the APIs, from the library, as well as actually from the command line as well, you can actually choose to download just a single entry from an entire product. This will run the entire, download the entire safe zipped format, but you can also choose to prune by looking at the entries attribute from each of the products to only get a specific part. Maybe you only want the enhanced measurements from a level 2 altimetry product. Maybe you only want a certain grid from SLSTR, or maybe you want to say the chlorophyll product from an Alt-G level 2. WFR, you can actually prune this using this methodology to only get the parts that you're interested in. So you can find this notebook on our training GitLab, which is gitlab.eumetsat.into/metlab. And under data services, you will find a repository called EUMETSAT Python for data services, and all the information I've just shown you in that notebook is available in there. In addition to this, there is also a new repo called Oceans, and under Ocean Training Sensors, you will find information specific to the marine components of Sentinel-3. For example, under Alchi, there is an example under Alchi Introductory to show you the basics of how to specifically get Alchi data using the data services. And under Advanced, there is another notebook that will show you how to perform maybe some more advanced tasks. I believe I have this one available to open here. For instance, in the case of Alchi, this will provide you with methodology for how you might want to filter by flag prior to downloading by only getting the WQSF science flags, checking for cloud or whatever configuration you want, assessing how much coverage there is, and then deciding to download the entire product based on your coverage. So it provides some ways of using EUMDAC in a slightly more advanced way to interface with the catalog to maybe be a bit more selective with the data that you might want. So I think that kind of comes to the end of my demo. We want to leave some time for questions. So I'm going to leave this useful links part up here, I think, for the time being. And then Hayley, I think we'll open up to questions or demos if anyone wants to see anything specific.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, I was just going to reshare my screen with a little bit more information on it so that everybody can see what kind of happens next with the coder transition. Hopefully you can all see my screen again. Looks right. So what happens next? The data store currently contains all the core Sentinel-3 operational collections. So as Ben showed you there, there's various different collections for the different instrument streams, and these contain the data at different timeliness levels, so the NRT, STC included for the altimetry, and the NTC, which is the like longer latency product with the improved auxiliary data added. Most of them starting from 1st of January in 2021. The data store currently doesn't contain any of the reprocessed data. So if you've been accessing that, it's currently still on the Coda Rep service, but this will change as the new reprocessings that we have coming up become available. We will preferentially put them into data store rather than serving them on Coda Rep. The first one of these will be the Alchi reprocessing for the entire mission, which will come relatively soon, next couple of months. And as we get reprocessing done, they will go on there. If there's not going to be a reprocessing due for some time, we will probably move the data over from Coda Rep and from the data center. So just to note that if you're looking for these two different data sets, so the current operational ones that have been going out every day and the reprocessing data sets, they will eventually be in two separate collections on the data store, but you can access them through the same architecture that Ben's just shown. So you won't need to go to multiple services. It'll all be through the same sort of API, just two different calls to different collections. We're intending to actually produce, in addition to the examples that Ben's shown you already, some methodology that will help you to use the EUMDAC client to gather the data across the different collections. So this should make it even easier for those of you that need to gather a full-time series of the data. I think as Ben mentioned, we've got some additional functionality now in the newer version of the data store, and this will reflect in the EUMDAC client soon, so that you can use the full functionality that's available, and this will ensure consistency with what you're familiar with using in Coda. For those of you that have access to other collections or other services through us currently, so if you're using mini files or if you have used our ODA services, other bespoke access points, these will eventually, these will eventually go through the data store. This won't happen just yet, don't worry, you'll be notified when this happens. This is just some of the links that Ben showed you as well. So we'll provide you with this presentation and some of the recording and links to videos, etc., on the page where you registered for this webinar today. So we have the knowledge base. There's a registration page there for if you haven't yet used any of these services. If you're entirely new, you can register with our EO portal to access all the different data access services. If you need support on using the services, you can email our help desk. That's ops@eumetsat.int, and you'll be contacted then by one of our colleagues. It might be myself, it might be Ben, it might be one of our colleagues. It depends who it comes to on that given day, who will help you with your data access needs, or indeed any other questions you have about the data itself. If you're interested in further training, so you'd like to get more hands-on with using the data, we have a variety of training opportunities available, which will all integrate the use of our new data services from now onwards. You can find those on our training website, so training.eumetsat.int. You can register there to apply for those courses. The notebook examples that Ben shared are available on our GitLab. So this is gitlab.eumetsat.int. The main page is /EUMETLab, and underneath that you'll find various subgroups where the data services and examples specifically for like the ocean, etc., are shown. So you can have a look at that to start working hands-on with the data. So summary, the data store is now serving Sentinel-3 data, so you can start accessing it right now. The service will exist alongside CODA until September, when CODA will be retired. New reprocess collections will be coming soon, as I mentioned, a little bit dependent on the reprocessing timeframes for the different instruments. If you need more information on that, you can always drop the help desk a line. I know this is quite an undertaking to deal with reprocessed data, so you maybe don't want to start processing a new archive of your own products if something new is about to come out, so do contact us for more information on those. Similarly, if you're interested in Sentinel-6 data, that will also come into the data store later this year. You can follow announcements through our user notification service and our website for when those new collections are available. As I said before, lots of support is available for you. Please do get in touch with any questions at all. No question is a problem for us. And any feedback is appreciated as well, positive or negative, what you like and don't like, we'd like to hear. So you can contact ops@eumetsat.int, or indeed me personally as well if you would like. So let's have a look at any questions we have. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, I'm just going to go to the Slido to see what questions we have. Okay, so somebody's asked, where do we get a, oh, okay, it's showing off my screen. Thanks, Regina, I'm assuming that was you. Will we have access to the video session? Yes, I've recorded at least part of this. Sorry, I didn't start it until slightly later, but I think you only missed my slides, which you'll have as well. So you'll have the recording of the demonstration that Ben gave. There's also other demonstrations on the Moodle, the EUMETSAT training web pages, where you can see previous sessions, and we have some videos on our YouTube channel of using the data store, not specifically for Sentinel-3 data, just for a general example that Ben gave, but that should also show you much of what we covered today. So next question there. Someone says, I had to download data for a month, August 2021, but now I realize coordinates are different. How can I correlate them to have a scale picture for every day? Okay, to get a precise mean value for the whole month. Okay, so I'm assuming this is somebody who's working with some Sentinel-3 data already. So the data itself is actually on the grid that the product comes in. So when you have a level 1 or a level 2 product, we try and register it in a geolocation fashion that is as accurate as possible, so on the ground. So this allows you to get very, very precise measurements, but it does mean that day to day, if you take one scene and another scene, they won't line up exactly. You'd have to do some kind of reprojection, regridding process in order to work with this data together. This is possible to do using a variety of tools that are available on in open source programming languages like Python, also through the Snap program and toolkit. You can do this kind of work with that. However, depending on your application need, you might not need to. You may be able to use one of the downstream products that are derived from the Sentinel-3 data, such as those available from the Copernicus Marine Services. So I would encourage you maybe to drop us a bit more of a detailed email to the help desk, and we can advise you on the best way to proceed on that. Ben, I don't know if you want to add anything more on that point.
Yeah, the only point I have to add is you might want to look at our EUMETView service. This offers a web map service But the Ulchi, chlorophyll, and SLSTRC surface temperature products are available as a web coverage service, which means you can get consistently gridded products from them over time, but the grid resolution is set by the available layer. So it might be suitable for your purposes, it might not, but if you only want to see kind of like a quick overview of something, then it's quite useful to see.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Then the next question, I have a problem installing with Conda in Windows. Who should I contact to solve the issue? You can contact our help desk and we can give you some advice on installing. I'm assuming this is reference to EUMETSAT, so we can help you with some installation there if there's any problems. Can I view Sentinel-3 data store Jupyter notebooks without registration at GitLab? Registration asks for a valid EUMETSAT email. It shouldn't do. It should be publicly available. I will double check that for you. If you're still having problems, again, drop us an email at ops@eumetsat.in and we should be able to check that for you. But it should be publicly available, showing now. And last question there, where do we get a list of products and their product ID? So if you enter the data store, you can actually search through the catalog there, and you can find based upon common word terminology. So if you search for Sentinel-3, it will give you a list of all the products, and then in each catalog entry, it has the product ID. Also in the presentation I gave in that little table, there is each of the product IDs for the current collections. You can also get them returned from the APIs. Ben, do you want to say a bit about how that works? You've already shown a little bit of it, but maybe a recap.
Yeah, I can do. So I did actually reply to this one, so that it might already be relevant information on the question. You can get the product IDs. Well, to determine your collection first, you can just do EUMETSAT space describe. If you're working from the command line, this will tell you all of the collection IDs. Once you've got the collection ID, you can do EUMETSAT space search and then -C in your collection ID, and that will give you a list starting from the latest to the farthest back in time of all the product IDs. So in this case, the product IDs are roughly the file names, but without the Sen3 ending. You can also get the product IDs via the GUI if you click the little eye icon on the product selection page, the one with the map, and that will tell you what the product ID is for a given product. So you can actually search in space and time to get a product ID, but nicely you can also just give it the product IDs if you want to download those too.
Okay, thanks very much, Ben. We have another question just come in. What's a good way to download all new products covering a region of interest on a regular basis, to have all of them using the subscription API or the search API? Ben, we were discussing this yesterday, so perhaps you want to give a bit of a view on our current thoughts.
Yeah, I would say if you wanted to do this on a regular basis, you can actually set your subscription to correspond to a region of interest. So you set up your subscription with an ROI, and then you'll have a notification every time a new product arrives in that ROI. Now, a word of warning on this one, the subscription service will send out a notification a new product is available, but it's up to you to catch how you listen for that notification. It will tell you, I think, 3 or 4 times, but if you miss those 3 or 4 times, then it won't tell you again. So you have to make sure that you catch it. So the most effective way, if you're working with near real time, is to use the subscription to do it. Alternatively, you can just set up, say, cron job or something automated where you can just repeatedly request what is the latest product and compare it against what you've got and download it if it's missing. And that you would do with the search API and then the download API after that.
Okay, and I see a question in the chat. Are the EUMETSAT binaries only available via Conda? I believe they're also on our GitLab, Ben, is that correct?
The binaries themselves actually aren't on Conda. Conda just installs the Python implementation. The binaries are on our GitLab, but when you download them, they download as entire packages rather than through Conda. So you're not tied to Conda, but EUMETSAT is currently not on PyPy, for example, if you tend to use that in package manager.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any more questions from anybody? I see a part question in the chat, something about par values, but I think it's only half a question. So perhaps you would like to drop that one to our help desk and we can have a look for you, specifically with regards to what you mean. I assume that's about the Ulchi par product. We can have a look for you to see what the problem is. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for all the questions. It's really good to have that level of interaction in these webinars, to know that people are wanting to use the services, and it helps us to learn and get good feedback. So please do, if anything else comes up while you're having a go using these new services, if anything comes up, questions, problems, feedback, please do contact our help desk, and we'd love to hear from you. And there'll be another one of these sessions, I think, again next month. Probably again focusing on Sentinel-3, and there'll be more coming up over the rest of the year on the other aspects of our data services and on the new data streams as they become available in there. Thank you very much.
If I can just say one more thing, for any of you who happen to be at the Liège colloquium next week or at Living Planet the week after, you can find us there. Ask us any questions you've got about data access, Sentinel-3, marine training in general. We'll be there to have a chat. Hope to see you.